guys, welcome back. Today we're going to work on finishing up our website that we designed yesterday. We're going to take the images from our design today and work on putting them into our website that we're going to be working on in Notepad, and we're just going to see how far we can get today on our website. So the first thing we have to do is we have to take the images and crop them out of our design. And just from looking at it, I can see there's only going to be 5 images from this design that I did. I have to have my product image and my icons. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the product image and I'm going to crop it out. And there's a few different ways you could do this, but I just usually crop them out and be done with that. Layers palette and hide the background for the rounded corners. And go File, Save for Web and Devices. Then I'm going to just PNG 24 because there's going to be transparency. And I'm going to click Save. Desktop here. Create a new folder. Website. And inside that folder I'm going to have a folder for my images. Inside that folder I'm going to save this image. It's going to be product display or something like that, and save that. And then I am going to hit Control Z and Control Alt Z to get back to where I was, and now I have to take my icons. And I'm not sure how I'm going to do this yet. I may just crop them out, but they are all different sizes, and obviously in my design they aren't lining up properly, but that was just because I just had to get through that for that part of the tutorial. But in CSS we will line them up as good as we can, as they are just oddball icons. They're not a set of icons or anything, so no really way to tell if they're going to work together, but we'll see. You can see they're all just kind of everywhere. But yeah, so what we're going to do is grab our crop tool. I'm going to zoom in a little bit here. I'm just going to crop this out as good as I can. Like that. My layers palette to get rid of the background. Oh. Yeah, I'm not just going to slam my fist on the keyboard for that shortcut. Alright, save. I'm going to save this as icon 1 because I don't really have a specific icon for any column, so they can all just be wherever they want to be. And I'm going to save that. Now if you go image, look at your canvas size, you'll see we're 62 by 68. But I don't think that size is going to work for all the images, so we're going to just have to deal with that. And that's why you want to either design your own icons so you can make them all the same dimensions, or find a good icon pack where they're all designed with each other in mind. Like where we were here. Come and take this one. Check. Hide the background, File, Save for Web and Devices, Save, Icon, Control Z, Control Z, this one, check, background, Save for Web and Devices, Save, Icon, 3. Alright, so that's all we have to do there because we only have 3 unique icons because these 2 icons are the same. So now we have every image we're going to need for our design. And I mean, yeah, we're not going to be using that. We're going to be using anchor tags styled with CSS to grab or to achieve that. And our navigation is just going to be text. All this stuff is just text. And that was the goal for this tutorial, or the goal for this design, was to keep it as simple as possible and yet make it look decent. And I'm doing that, I believe. So we're going to continue on now. We created this website folder, and now out here you'll remember that we had our 16column.css file that we grabbed from that download we did yesterday. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take that and I'm going to hit Control C and I'm going to paste it right inside there. I'm going to rename this style.css. There we go, and nothing else out there we need right now. If you've not watched my other tutorials on website design, then you may not have Notepad++. You need to get Notepad++, and it's just great. I've not found a text editor that I like more than Notepad++. All you have to do is Google Notepad++. It's a free download. Check it out. Get it if you want to do this kind of stuff. So we're going to hit Control S in our Notepad, or mine's already saved. So I'm going to just save as. And inside our website folder, I'm going to save it as index.html. HTML is the extension that makes it recognize that it is a web file. It is a website file. And we're going to start writing up our website in here now. The first thing we do is we define a doc type. And we're using HTML5, so we're going to use doc type HTML. That is the cleanest doc type there is. Then we're going to start with our tags. We have HTML and HTML. Then we're going to have body and body. Or we must head. And head and head. So this is the basic skeleton that makes up a website. HTML, head, and body. Now in this website, or in this tutorial, I'm not going to go over every little tag. I did that in my last series, so I'm not really going to waste my time doing that in this tutorial. If you want the basic of everything, go check out that. It's on the channel. So inside the head, I'm going to make a title for the page. I'm going to say my website. Well, yeah, my website. And then we're going to link to our style sheet. Link, href. Now this is the directory of your style, or of your style sheet. And mine is in the same folder, so it'll just be style.css. Like if yours was in your CSS folder, it'd be style or css/style.css. Then we're going to define the relationship between that file we're bringing in and the file we are currently on. It will be style sheet. That is this file, style sheet, and the type. It is a text file that contains CSS. There we go. Now all the styles we define within style.css will affect things on this page. So now if we hit Control S, come to our folder here and open up our style.css. And just a couple things I'm going to mention really quick. You'll see the container 16. We are using the 16 column CSS file. It has a margin left and a margin right set to auto, so it'll be in the center, and it has the width defined at 960 pixels. The grids all have inline left and margin left and margin right set to 10 pixels. So they're all going to be floating left, and they're all going to display as inline. And they're all going to have margin 10 pixels on the left and the right. The pulls and pushes are relative, so you can define like a left and a right. But I don't think we'll be using any of those. We may, I don't really know. And alpha and omega, that's if we don't want any margin on the left or the right. We use alpha and omega respectively. And these are just obvious. Container 16 grid 1 is 40 pixels, 100 pixels, 150 pixels. That's the whole point of what we're using, so nothing really to go over there though. So we're going to start off with a container. It's a div with a class that we're going to define right here. And a div is just a divider. It divides up chunks of content or structure, things like that. So we're going to say the class name is container 16. Now why is it container 16? Because we're using this class. We're going to set the auto, or the margins to auto, and the width to 960 pixels. Then we're going to add in a header. That's an HTML5 tag to define a header location on a web page. We're going to add a class to this, and it's going to be, see, now this is where the cool part comes in. We come into Photoshop and we go to our layers here and make sure this is turned on, and we can see how many columns our logo is taking up. It's taking up 5 columns. So we know when we come into here, we want this, we want the header to be grid 16. That is going to span the whole 16 columns of the container. But inside the header, we're going to have a couple things. First thing is div class, and close that, and we're going to say, okay, I want this one to span 5 columns for our logo. So we're going to make it grid 5. And then for our navigation, we're just going to define the rest of the columns there. So it's going to be div class grid 11 and close div. Now our navigation does not take up 11 columns, but what we're going to do is we're just going to align the text to the right, and just for simplicity's sake, it'll work just fine. So grid 5 and grid 11, we'll just go blah blah and blah blah. Okay, and if we want to see if that's going to work or not, we come to the browser here, and you can see they're stacking on top of each other. Why is it doing that? That's because we are using 16 columns inside a 16 column class already. So what we have to do is we have to get rid of the margins on these. So we're going to say alpha and omega. Now that should get rid of our margins and make it fit within there just fine. There we go. So now there's no margin here and no margin here. So let's go ahead and make our logo. Book.me. And I'm going to add a class right here that I've not defined yet, but it's going to be brand. Control S. And come into the CSS. And I'm going to make a class called brand. And I'm going to say, let's see, font size will be 68 pixels. If I refresh, book.me. Now let's make the navigation. I would say home, downloads, and bookmarks. Now you'll see it's just home, downloads, and bookmarks. What we're going to do is we're going to put these inside of an unordered list, and then order the list the way we want them to, or the way we want to have them displayed. So I'm going to say UL and UL. That stands for unordered list. Inside that, we're going to have LI and LI. That is a list item. Oops, close that one. Now inside the list item, I'll have home. Just copy and paste that. Like that. Download and bookmarks. Control S and view this in a browser. You'll see it is not what we want it to be. So what we do, we add a tag right inside of this called nav. That's an HTML5 tag to define a navigation chunk of links. So we're just going to use that, and inside of our style.css, we're going to say header nav. Let's see, header UL, and then we'll say margin 0, padding 0. Yeah, and then we're going to say header li, and we're going to list style. I'm going to get rid of the bullets, and then we're going to make it display in line, so they line up just like that. Then I want to add a margin to the left of the list item of about 10 pixels to add some separation there. And then I'm going to say font size 20 pixels. And the font family sans serif. There we go. And now what we want to do is let's see here what I do here. So we grab the nav. We'll say nav text align right. There we go. And nav margin on the top will be half whatever our header is going to be, pretty much. For now, we'll just say like 30 pixels or something. Okay, and now to achieve this gray background we have behind our header, we're going to have to do something I did not want to do, but that is grab a 1 pixel slice of this background, and then we can define a background color with that. The reason we're doing that and not just using a background color for one of our containers is because we want the color to stretch the whole page, no matter what size the browser is. But if we have it within a container, it's just going to be the size of that container, because we're inside of a grid system that is locked down to 960 pixels. So what we're going to do is just grab a slice of our background image. Just zoom in on this right here, grab this, and we're just going to grab a 1 pixel slice of our background image. Make sure that's just 1 pixel. Okay. And go File, Save for Web and Devices, and make that a PNG24, and save that within our images as background. Then we're going to go into our CSS and add our body here. We're going to say background image URL That's going to be images / background. What did I name that? Just background.png. So background.png. Save that. If you come to the browser and refresh, you'll see that it just takes over the whole body. But we just want that to repeat. Background repeat X. There we go. And that's what we wanted it to do. Repeat across the X-axis there. So now what we have to do is make our header text, in that case, white. So we'll come up here and say header. Now in our case, the header is only going to be applied to the head of the website. But in some cases you may use header for like the header of an article, or the header of something else. So you don't want to apply such a universal style or such a non-universal style to a universal selector. So you want to make sure that you select a specific header if you're going to be using your header throughout your website in different locations. But in our case, it's just going to be the header of the website, so we're fine with just styling the header. Then say font, or not font, but color is FFF. F5 to refresh, and there we go. The font weight 600. I really like the serifs on that, but it's not what we did. That's what we had designed to start with, so we're not going to go with that. Did I define a font family down here? I did. Control X that. And we add that to our header. So it'll be applied to all of them within our header. Book.me and home downloads. Okie dokie. Now in our index, we're going to go ahead and make these links. And A, href, and A. A stands for anchor tag. We can add a link using the href hypertext reference or something like that. And it's just going to be, for now, we're just going to have a little hashtag in there. And all that does is goes to, just reloads the page. What am I doing? And now you'll see that they are these default blue links. And that does not work for us. So what we're going to do is we're going to say nav A, so we can target these anchors or these links directly. The anchor tag within the navigation tag. I'm going to say color and text decoration none. And there we go. Now if we want to apply a hover state for these, we go nav A hover, just like that. And then we can define styles that will change these styles whenever we hover over it. So nav A hover, we will say color, now we'll just say red. And I roll over that, the links change to red. Not what we want, but that's how you do that. Like I think I want a background of like 777 or something. Let's go ahead and add a padding here of 5 pixels. Control S, F5 refresh, and we get that. And we can add a border radius of like 4 pixels. So now the corners are rounded. Whatever you want to do. Whatevers you want to do. Whatevs. Whatevs. Okay, we're going to move on. So now let's define the area for our product image. Div class div. Now our product image is going to take up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 columns. It's going to take up 8 columns. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to say div class grid 8. And then inside that we're going to bring in the image using an image tag. So we're going to say image, and inside here we're going to say source, src, and then define the directory for the image and then the name of the image. In our case, it's images / product display .png, I think. Look really quickly. Product display, yes. Control S, browser, F5 refresh, and there we go. Now that's not looking like we wanted it to look. We don't have any space on top of the image. We don't have that. We need that. So what we can do is we can come into our style.css and we're going to give our header a margin on the bottom. And again, the reason I can do that is because the header is being used only one time inside of our website. And most cases you don't use header to define a header chunk of an article, header chunk of a blog post, things like that. But not in this case. We're just using header for the header of the website. So I'm going to say header margin bottom like 20 pixels. And there we go. And now out to the right of the product display image, and go div class div, and make this one grid 8, blah blah, Control S, F5, blah blah. And we're going to add a class to this div, another class to this div of like product action or something like that. Now in the style.css page, I'm going to define what that does. So I want to say product action, and I'm going to say I want a background color of EF, and I want a rounded border of about 3 pixels. Control S, browser, F5 refresh, and there we go. Now I want this to be the exact same height as our image. And our image is, let's go into our folder here, and let's see. It is 459 by 286. So it is 286 pixels high. Or tall, I guess. So we're going to say height is 286 pixels. Refresh, and there you go. 286, right? Yeah. Now we're going to get to use a header tag, or not a header tag, a heading tag, sorry, for this. Now our font, or I'm just messing words all up. Our text is going to say save a website for later with a single click. So save a website for later with a single click. There we go. Not as catchy whenever it's like that, so we'll fix that. Let's say H1. This is the main heading on this website, or on this page. Nothing is as important as this heading on this page. This is the thing I want you to see. This is the thing I want you to pick up whenever you're scanning this website. Refresh that, and we'll get that. Again, not what we want. Let's go up to the top here. And I'm going to define my heading tags right here. Right off the bat, I'm going to say H1, H2, H3, H4, H5, and H6. And that is the phone. So what this means is that whatever styles are defined inside of this will apply to all of these headings. That's what the comma means right there. And this, and that, and this. And I want to say margin is 0 and padding is 0. And that just helps to get rid of that. We will apply that to the ones we need it on. We're going to say H1. And I'm going to define the styles for that. Up here, I want to make sure it knows the font family is going to be sans serif. Don't want any of those serifs. There we go. There's the font size. Okay, then I'm going to say margin is going to be 10 pixels or so. And the color is going to be 40, 40, 40. And the line height needs to be adjusted. It's going to be 50 pixels. And now we're going to have our subheading line, like in Photoshop right here. We have download our toolbar to get started. So we're going to use that. We're going to define an just going to define a paragraph for that. So we need product action paragraph. And we're going to say margin. We'll leave those and see how that turns out. And color 8A. And here we're going to say paragraph and paragraph. Download our toolbar to get started. Okay. I'm going to say font size is going to be 36. Margin 10 pixels. Margin right and margin left 10 pixels. And then at the margin top, I have like 5 pixels, if that. Not even that. We'll just leave that at 0. I want that to be a single line. So we're going to take it down to like 30 pixels. Really? Come on. Okay. So that's a single line. So then I'm going to make our anchor tag for our download button. Say anchor, href, anchor. Just a dummy link for now. I'm going to say download. Now we look at this, we get that. That's beautiful. Beautiful. Let's say product. Actually, let's just make this into a download button. So let's say download button. So I can use that for more things. And I'm going to say display as a block. Padding is going to be like 10 pixels. And the width is going to be 100% of what it can be. And the background is going to be a green color. I'll change that in a second. And the text line is going to be center. So now I want to add a class to this link of download button. Control S, F5 to refresh, and there we go. Now the 100% is not going to work because of the paddings. It does not take into account of that. So I'll say padding top and padding bottom. There we go. Now it is 100% of the container. Let's grab this green color because I kind of like that. I'll come right here and place that green color. If I refresh, there we go. And let's see. Color, white, text, decoration, none. We're going to define a font family for the body of sans serif, so it can inherit down here. There we go. And that's what we want. Maybe make the font size 16 pixels. $18 pixels. There we go, kind of like that. And now on hover, we're going to want this to do something. So how do we do that? Let's say like I want it to only be the product actions anchor tag. So I'm going to say product action anchor tag. So it's not going to apply to all download buttons. It's only going to apply to the specific anchor tag within the product action. So I'm going to say product action anchor tag hover. I want the, I don't know, let's just play around here. The height to go up to 40 pixels or something. Or sorry, we're not using height, we're using padding, aren't we? Padding top and padding bottom. I want these to go up to 15 pixels apiece. So now when you hover, it goes like that right there. And we can animate that or whatever we want to do, but I don't want to go that route anyway. We'll just say color or a background color, and here we'll make it a little bit brighter. Now on hover, it just gets a little bit brighter. There we go. And now we are done with the top of the body.